What if you had a guide who could tell you how to bridge a gap between who you are today and who you're destined to be? What if each week you could hear a story of someone who has tried and succeeded, or perhaps tried and failed, but learned something in the process? Limitless Spirit is a weekly podcast where host Helen Todd interviews guests about topics and personal stories on defining life's purpose, pursuing personal growth, and developing a deeper faith in Christ.
Welcome to the Limitless Spirit podcast. Today's episode is a little different from our usual conversations about faith and pursuing your greater purpose through missionary work. But it is fun and full of practical information for anyone who travels. I'm your host, Helen Todd, and my guest today is Laurie Osterman, a social media influencer known to a substantial number of Instagram and YouTube followers by her account Travel Tips by Laurie. She is Houston-based pilot's wife who has packed in only a carry-on for 20 years. Laurie has traveled on several mission trips herself. So whether you plan a vacation or an adventure with Jesus, as we call mission trips, Laurie's easy travel hacks from clearing airport security to how to pack into just a carry-on will help you avoid many mistakes and make your travel worry-free. Laurie, welcome to the Limitless Spirit podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here.
So it's a really cool story how this interview even came about. I saw your account on Instagram, Travel Tips by Pilot's Wife, and as a lifelong traveler myself, I thought she has some amazing advice for people who travel a lot. And I thought of this interview. I had no idea whether you were even going to see my message, but you did. And here we are doing the interview.
That's right. You were in my junk mail and I just happened to see it that day.
Oh, we know how these coincidences come about. So it was an absolute bonus for me to find out that you are a follower of Christ and you have even done mission trips yourself, which makes your advice just absolutely invaluable because you know firsthand the needs, the pain points, the questions that people have when they answer God's call to go on a mission trip. So we are going to make sure that our conversation is super helpful for anyone who is going on one or maybe is just still considering going on one. So let's talk about your mission trip. I heard that your most recent mission trip was to Albania, which is one of the countries where we happen to work. Tell me about it. What was your highlight?
So we packed in only a carry-on bag for 10 days. And during the morning time, we would be at the beach about 30 minutes away, teaching Bible stories and just playing soccer, surprise, surprise, and sweating like crazy for 3 hours. But then we would go back to the hotel and have like an outfit that I also needed to pack. We have several people from Houston that our church supports. And so that led us to Tirana in Albania. But it was very tricky, and shoes are the heaviest thing. So one of my easiest packing tips is to wear your heaviest shoes in the airplane and then pack outfits that can mix and match. So like on the first day, those clothes that I sweated in, I washed them in the sink. You can pack Tide sink packets. They come in like a 3-pack from Amazon, and then you can just wash that shirt, whatever outfit pieces you need so that it dries in 2 days, and then wear them again. And then whatever outfits you wear at night, you're going to wear those again. I like mixing like patterned shorts if you want some fun in your boring travel outfits because they all have to mix and match. And then pairing that with a solid shirt because you can wear those with a pattern shirt. It will mix and match with different tops and things like that. Thin fabrics are easy to dry fast. Things like that. I would wear a sports bra during the day and then have another bra that was dry, ready for me when I was at home or got back to the hotel. And then other little tips. We can talk about security or medicine or wherever you want to go.
So let's pause a little bit on this concept of packing for a 10-day trip into a carry-on because this is one of the most frequently asked questions. I've been doing this for the last almost 8 years. Once I discovered that I actually can survive, I'm just an average woman that loves to have everything she wants at her fingertips. I want to look presentable during the trip. And so I've always thought it's not possible. But once I discovered that it is possible, I never looked back. And so people ask me to make a video. I don't know. I'm not a video person. But here I'm talking to a pilot's wife. You're an ultimate expert. So let's talk about and I know it's very important to women, maybe less important to men. They can survive on bare minimum. But how many outfits do you lay out for that trip to be able to pack into the carry-on?
So most of my videos I show you because of my teacher background, elementary school teaching background. I show you on my YouTube channel, Travel Tips by Laurie, lots of ways that I pack so that you can see while I'm talking. But one of my newest one is the 1, 2, 3 method. And in the winter, I try to pack one pair of pants. Okay. In the summer, I know it, especially now, there are so many thin pairs of trousers or shorts that you can pack, especially in the summer, it's easier. But one pair of pants, only pack 2 pairs of shoes, because remember, you've got your airplane outfit pair of shoes and your airplane outfit trousers that you have to mix and match with through the week. And then 3 tops for each bottom piece. And that's like 6 outfits right there, because 2 bottoms and 3 tops each. And then if you can mix and match, but I would just pack in lightweight fabric in the winter, like cashmere. Nordstrom has some brand. It's their brand, Nordstrom. Theirs is this kind that I can wear by itself. It's not itchy at all. Or in the summer, that is one layer that's thin to pack that I can get warm in on the airplane when they're freezing cold. Or I can shed as fast as possible if I'm in the back of the airplane and it's burning up hot. But I can mix and match. I don't sweat a lot. I don't know if that helps, but having neutral shoes as well. Like those 2 pairs of shoes are so important. Why? Because they take up the most space in a carry-on suitcase. So those have got to be neutral. They've got to be able to go with every single top that I have packed. One of those 2 pairs of shoes are the ones in the airplane. And then one of them has to be water resistant. Echo is my favorite shoe. They're water resistant. Nordstrom has free returns and shipping. That's why I always use them. But they're water resistant and I can walk all day because they have a sneaker sole. But I recently found inserts. They're called Power Step. Those are kind of expensive, but there's like Perseverance, almost the spelling on Amazon, for inserts that have super good arch support. Yeah, just mix and match. Lots of solids for mixing and match.
See, I knew I needed to ask you for that because you're an absolute pro. I mean, you have a method. I can't wait to check out those videos. And for our listeners' sake, we're going to post links to your YouTube channel and to your Instagram channel in our show notes because I think it's super practical for them to follow your accounts and look up your videos. See, I don't have to make a video. I can just send them to Laurie's account and
That's right.
She has already all the videos. So I think that these are super practical points there. Now, let's talk about the carry-on and the backpack because that's what I do. Like you're allowed 2 pieces, a personal luggage item and a carry-on to take with you on the plane. And so I place huge importance on my backpack and on my carry-on. So in the carry-on, the criteria that I have is that it rolls like a charm. All I have to do is just push it slightly and it rolls on its own so that it's easy for me to get through the airports. And then the backpack, the convenience of the backpack on my back. So do you have any advice for people on purchasing those 2 items? Because they're going to make it. or break it?
Yes. So the Tripped brand is my favorite for packing cubes. So, we have had to pack in a carry-on suitcase only for 20 years now. So we've figured out tips and tricks from my mistakes that I keep making over and over. But these, it took me forever to even try them. So I just bought a cheap set of packing cubes. But then my viewers were like, you've got to try compression cubes. And so I shopped around. These were the best brand. They have 2 zippers, so you do not need a vacuum cleaner. You zip the first one, like you pack your clothes in there, and the key is to not overstuff it, okay? You pack like 4 shirts and maybe some socks in the corners. You're going to zip the top zipper, and then the second zipper is what you zip, and that compresses it. So imagine a rectangular book, even though they're called cubes. That is going to allow you to pack more if you're not concerned about a lot of weight. But it also, and I don't think it makes a lot of difference in wrinkles for what I pack. I pack kind of casually. But one thing that made me go viral on Instagram, and it was terrible lighting when I did this video back when Southwest lost a bunch of luggage around Christmas. My travel hack is, in your personal item bag, be it a tote bag or backpack, you're going to take like a small little compression packing cube. And the reason I liked that brand, the Tripped brand, was you get 2 large ones in one set. So it's a bigger bang for your buck. But you're going to pack like a shirt, maybe 2 shirts, 2 pairs of undies, and a pair of socks. And if your bag, because there's no room in the overhead bins for your suitcase, and the airline checks it, and then all of a sudden, when you get to your final destination, they can't find your bag, you've at least got an outfit. And the good thing about that is that can get you through a couple of days while you're waiting on your luggage. But it's like a book. So a rectangular book packed flat in the very bottom of your backpack or bag, and that you don't even notice it's there. And then I would pack like my cords for my flight, because one very important tip is if you have a charger that charges your phone, the charging part, that battery pack, it cannot go in the belly of the airplane. So if the airline does have to check your bag last minute, you don't want to delay the flight or be flustered and forget, because they can catch on fire like just by themselves. So I have my cords and my battery chargers also right above my compression cube in my backpack. And then I also like to take medicines, because medicines, especially if they're essential for your daily life, if that bag gets checked and then lost, you're without your important medicine. And just real quick, a tip for flying to an international destination for medicines that I get asked a ton is for prescription pills. In the United States, the TSA is not going to check your pills. They don't care where you pack or how they're labeled, your pills. But internationally, so many countries have different rules. You have to have them in that with that prescription label and on the bottle. One thing that some pharmacists will do, mine would not, but they will put your pills in a plastic thing. And it's like the old Sudafed things with the foil. So it's flat and it's easier to pack. It takes up less room, but not all pharmacists will do that. And then international travel for liquids, those have to be in the bin, like separately from your liquids bag. So, and if they are liquids, they don't have to be 3.4 ounces or smaller. They can be in a larger container, but the TSA says they have to be checked separately, like screened separately in the bins going through the little conveyor belt. And I did that with my prescription shampoo in Belgium. I pulled it out of my bag. I didn't have to pack it in my liquids bag, but for screening, I had it in like a little Ziploc bag. They don't say you have to have it in a certain bag, and it was allowed, but that prescription was on that bottle. So it didn't get taken away.
That is very important because that's something people don't think about when traveling internationally because it's not a hassle here in the United States. So while we're on the subject of packing, one also frequently asked question is about the adapters and converters. And of course, each country or region has their own type. So have you discovered a certain brand that maybe equips you for everything? So you just buy one and you pack it with you no matter where you go, and you're prepared to be able to plug your phone and other appliances.
So two things about that is one is you only need to pack a converter if you're going to be using your hair dryer from the US or your curling iron. Your laptop does not need a converter. Your phone doesn't need a converter. So mine on my Amazon page, I think it's DoAce, DoAce. It is a converter adapter combined. I have a 3-minute video. If you just search Travel Tips by Laurie converter, it'll pop up on YouTube. But the adapter is what allows you to plug something into the wall in another country with the correct shape. So one thing I noticed is hotels, especially cruise ships too, they don't have enough outlets for all of our electronics, especially CPAP machine, all that stuff, our battery chargers, watch charger, hearing aid chargers. I wear hearing aids, so I have to take that stupid thing. And I bought, when I got back, these little adapters. It's a 2-pack. I don't know the brand. It's on my Amazon page, but they're adapters. And that's what I recommend taking more of, especially if you have to do what all churches do and share rooms with your teammates. You're going to need more adapters that you can plug your stuff into, like your chargers and stuff like that.
Yes, that's an excellent point. And again, I want to reiterate that we are posting links to all your accounts, including your Amazon page, because, you have done the research for us. So
exactly.
All we need to do is just go to that link and get the stuff. So very, very easy.
I bought the cheap thing because my parents were teachers growing up. I try to buy the cheap one. If it's good, I'll keep it. But I have done the work and suffered.
So let's move on to travel safety. And of course, we all want to be safe while we're traveling, but there are also challenges that arise with travel safety. So frequently people ask about the TSA pre-check program and whether it because it does cost money, it affords you a certain convenience while traveling, but it also costs money and effort to obtain it. So would you say that it's worth it? And what are some main benefits that a person gets from this program?
The TSA pre-check is worth it if you fly more than once or twice a year. If you don't, you can get to the airport earlier. My number one tip is to get to the airport 2 hours before boarding time. And now, because those airplanes, the Boeing ones, are so incredibly long, they start boarding for a domestic flight 45 minutes before the plane is supposed to take off, like on your ticket. So you just subtract 45 minutes from your departure time and get there to the airport, inside the airport, 2 hours before then, if you don't have pre-check. Pre-check lines sometimes are just as long as the other lines, but they move fast because the benefits are you do not have to take out your laptop. You don't have to take off your sweatshirt you're wearing or your liquids bag. However, I found out that I could not have just an Oxford shirt or a sweatshirt tied around my waist in pre-check. And a lot of times you can't even wear a belt going through pre-check, which I thought that was one of the benefits. But so it depends on your airport security in the US, your airport security's new technology. There's so much new technology that hardly anybody has to take out their liquids bag anymore, but you just never know. So we're always ready because you don't want to delay or miss that flight.
And of course, we have to mention that a TSA pre-check only works in the United States. Once you leave the United
Yes.
States, it doesn't really apply. And do you remember how much it is? I've had it for so long, I can't
Yes.
even remember now. How much is that cost?
It's like $76 because or 82, and then global entry I just got after 20 years, and it is 100. So it's worth it to me to pay 20 more dollars to get global entry. And I'm making a whole video on how to do that because their emails are confusing, but it was super easy.
And it
It's
is a
worth it.
long process. At least it was for my husband, and I opted not to get global entry and just stick with TSA pre.
Yep.
But just for our listeners' sake, let's outline the benefits of global entry too, so that they can make that decision for themselves.
Global entry allows you to just come through customs and border protection, not patrol, faster. You don't even have to show your passport. It's like screening your face, like a lot of airport securities are doing for normal pre-check now. But there is a free program. It was a little too confusing to me that you can research on your own. It's an app. It's called MPC, Mobile Passport Control, CBP, Customs Border Protection. Those letters are what it is. And it's like a separate line, global entry and from entering the United States. Its line, when I was coming back from Belgium, there was no one in it, but nobody else was in the terminal because our flight was delayed. So
I've used
global
that
entry
app.
is just,
I vouch by that app. It's very, very
yeah,
helpful.
and it's free.
And it is free, and you just install it on your phone, fill out some information, and you're good to go. While we're still on this subject, what can make it easier for people to go through airport security, whether they're overseas or they're in the United States? Are there certain ways that they should dress to make it easier, that they should pack to make it easier? And of course, some of the things that are an absolute no-no.
Right. Well, if you're 75 and older, you do not have to take off your shoes, but untying your shoes well before it's your time at the conveyor belt is so helpful to you and everybody behind you. And then having your liquids bag, like at the top of your backpack, if they make you take it out, pulling out your iPad most of the time, you only have to take out electronics that are larger than a phone. I have a video it's called TSA Line Walkthrough on my YouTube channel to kind of show you with a little mock TSA line what you need to take out. And I just make sure everything's ready before I even leave my house. Because when you get to the airport, I still feel rushed or in a hurry, or I'm going to make a mistake and make the people behind me mad. Well, I'm never going to see those people again. So things I can do at my house are leave my belt off, my big old Texas sized jewelry, leave it off, and then have my electronics and my liquids bag just easily accessible. And one thing that I also think is helpful is when you get to the airport, you know how you have to show that first TSA person your ticket, your ID, maybe if they don't have newer technology. I already have an easily accessible pocket where I put my ID and my ticket, like the outside pocket of my backpack. I just toss it in there as soon as I show the first officer, and then take out off my shoes, and then take out my electronics if I need to, and liquids bag. And then as soon as I get through security, I move to the side, and there's usually a bench, and that's where I put my ID and my ticket in a secure location so that I don't forget it. That's where I put all my shoes, so I don't forget it and get all flustered and then lose that important ID. One also important thing is to remember when you are booking a flight for your mission trip, make sure your name matches what is on the ID you're going to be using, usually your passport. It's got to be the same.
That is very solid advice because honestly, this experience starts off your trip. And if it ends up being a disaster, it really taints the rest of your experience. So if you plan ahead and you use those tips, you start off well and then you just remove unnecessary stress because travel is stressful and there are certain things that are beyond our control that we can do nothing about. So if we focus on those things that we can plan and prepare, I think this is really, really helpful.
I say be less stressed because you stress less by planning ahead.
That's great. That's great. So, well, we look at travel as necessary evil because, to get to most of these destinations that God is calling us to, most of them are across the ocean or for sure across the border, and we can't avoid travel. And, some people are lucky to live close to those big international airports where they can get to many places without layovers. I'm not one of those. I live in Branson, Missouri, close to no airports. And so I always end up with long layovers somewhere along the way. So I'm sure you have experienced that too. So what is your advice on surviving those long layovers and maybe making the most out of these long layovers?
Well, one thing is to download that airports app because so many airports now have the money now because everybody's traveling to make some really cool things. Like in Denver, they had ice skating a couple of years ago, or they brought back
What?
ice skating in the winter. And then they have a whole cornhole section now right by the super long security line. And if they've never flown internationally before, one very important tip is to never make the connection time less than 2 hours because those airports over there sometimes make you go through security two
Extra,
times before
yeah.
you connect to your next flight. So we just say 3 hours in other countries for connecting. And then I always pack my travel pillow if I'm going overseas because I can't sleep if it's a less than 5 hour flight. But if your flight's canceled, you have kind of like a pillow. But then there are other things that you can do based on that airport. And I would just check that airport as well.
And honestly, some of the big international airports are super cool. Like Amsterdam Airport has a Rembrandt museum in it where you can experience some culture. And
Wow.
Istanbul
I know
Airport is pretty cool. Which
The
one?
San Fran one, the San Francisco one has a yoga room.
See, you can work out
I
waiting for
know.
your
Yeah.
next flight. I didn't know about the Denver skating. I fly through Denver frequently, and so, but I don't always have enough time there to explore things. But
Probably
um,
because the security line's so long.
that's true. That's true. And it
Oh,
is a very good advice to count in the security lines in international airports in other countries because it seems like no matter where you're traveling through, you have to go to security to make that
hmm.
connecting flight. So, what would you say are the most important points that travelers should think about as they're preparing to travel?
I would just say patience because airports, airlines are understaffed like a lot of other places. So patience. And you don't need all the extras. Just pack the bare minimum. You're never going to see those people you're working with or working with in another country again. So it doesn't matter how cute you look. Pack the bare minimum. You don't need the cute pouches. Pack in plastic baggies. You can pack the same thing. It doesn't have to be pretty. Just make it work.
Well, and one more thing I forgot to ask about when we were talking about safety of travel. Do you recommend certain ways to pack your valuables to protect them during the trip? Because, pickpocketing happens and sometimes things get stolen out of your hotel rooms. So, any advice on that?
Well, always split up your credit cards. We always use the hotel safes. Sometimes my husband, if we're going to be on a train, he will have the wallet in his front pocket with his hand over that wallet inside his front pocket. The hidden money belt is great. I love crossbody bags by Travelon because they have slash resistant straps. That's just always my biggest worry with that. But there are hidden pocket things, like there's a scarf on Amazon with a hidden pocket that you can put your passport in and some little things. There's a little pocket for your bra strap that is hidden. And the main tip is that you cannot wear these hidden things through airport security. And just common sense, when you're out and about, you're not supposed to reach for those hidden things. So they're meant to be hidden so that you're not packing them in your hotel. But there's also a sock with a hidden pocket, and that is big enough for a credit card or a couple of credit cards. Things like that. You can pack things in. You can smuggle your cash in an empty deodorant container, a chapstick container, things like that. Just be creative. There's a hairbrush that has an opening for cash or something else you may need to get across.
So one last question, and I have my opinion on that when people ask me this question, but I'm curious to hear yours. So your passport, do you keep it on your body or do you leave it in a safe place in the hotel room? And that's, of course, when you're overseas.
Right. We leave it in the hotel safe. We always have. But if we're on a train traveling to the next destination, he puts it in his hidden money belt. And the newer ones are just as ugly as the ones from 30 years ago when I went to Eastern Germany. They're ugly, but they're soft against your skin. So it's not super sweaty, I don't think. And the buckle is like embedded now, the one that I found, Baksiki. I don't know. It's on my Amazon page, but yeah, we've always used the hotel safes.
So I always feel like keeping it on my person, but that could be because some of the countries where we work in, they do often document checks, and
yes,
you want
that's
to have
right.
it with you. So
yes, I forgot about that.
So I'm just in the habit of being prepared at all times and having my identity on me. But,
Yes.
I know that people get worried about misplacing their passport. And that's one thing you don't really want to happen to you.
I do have one tip. You always take pictures of your ID and your passport and email them to yourself or to a friend in case you're incapacitated. But there's also, you can take a picture of the barcode that's in the back cover of your passport. And if you lose it, that helps expedite it even faster while you're over there.
That's a great tip.
I do love the STEP program, just, in case there's an upheaval in that country. The State Department, they have your cell phone number and can warn you, or they can track that you're over there if that doesn't bother you.
That is a good point. And we do that in the dangerous countries, so to speak. Fortunately,
yes.
So far, it has been so good. But
yes.
Thank you so much. It's a wealth of information and advice, and I really appreciate you taking time to share about this. And so hopefully, as they follow your accounts, our listeners can prepare for the travel to make it even enjoyable. Sometimes there are just these wonderful moments that happen during travel that make it so worth it. And of course, if you're on a mission, you don't forget that airports and airplanes are a mission field too. And you have an opportunity not only to share Jesus verbally, but just by being gracious to people around you to be like Jesus and represent him. And that includes airplane staff, that includes your neighbor in the seat next to you. And so that's also a mission right there.
That's true. And there are Christian flight attendants out there.
And
so
my heart always goes to flight attendants because their work is hard. And most of the time they do it with a lot of grace. And so I always want to be appreciative of their efforts. Well, thank you so much, Laurie. I hope you have a wonderful day. And I look forward to watching your videos and hearing. I feel like I'm a lifelong learner, and I definitely can find out some more interesting information from your videos.
I hope the tips help.
I encourage you to follow Laurie's accounts, Travel Tips by Laurie, that's Laurie, on YouTube and Instagram. And also check out in the show notes her Amazon links because they will connect you to some useful products that will make your travel easier. In the meantime, remember that there's no more satisfying journey than traveling on an assignment from Jesus. In his Great Commission in Matthew 28, verses 19 through 20, he challenges his disciples to go into all the world, making new disciples and proclaiming him. If your life has been changed by Christ, you are challenged and empowered to help others experience this change. Visit the World Missions Alliance website, rfwma.org, and discover how you can get involved in the Great Commission through short-term mission trips. I also invite you to the Greater Purpose Conference. It's happening very soon, April 3rd, 4th, and 5th in Branson, Missouri. And there you can be inspired and strengthened in your faith, connect with a community of people who are actively pursuing their greater purpose. And again, more information is on our website, rfwma.org. Until next time, I'm Helen Todd.
Limitless Spirit Podcast is produced by World Missions Alliance. We believe that changed lives change lives. If you want to see your life transformed by Christ's love, or if you want to help those who are hurting and hopeless and discover your greater purpose in serving Christ through short-term missionary work, check out our website, rfwma.org, and find out how to get involved.